All right, today we're diving into voodoo. That's the ritual washing Muslims perform before prayer. And if you think it's just about splashing some water on your face, well, you're in for a surprise. This is so much more than just getting clean. It's about preparing your entire being, heart and soul, to stand before God. So let's get right into it.
I love this quote because it really flips our usual way of thinking on its head. I mean, think about it. We spend so much of our lives guarding our stuff, right? Our money, our homes. But religious knowledge, that's the one thing that actually guards us. It's this protective force that helps you make sense of everything.
And that really brings us to the core question here. Why the physical washing? Why is this act of cleaning your body so deeply tied to the spiritual act of prayer? To get the answer, we gotta go a little deeper than just the surface.
So first things first, let's unpack the why behind wudu. Because once you really get the intention behind it, all the physical steps start to make a whole lot more sense. They become truly meaningful. Okay, this is the most important part to understand. Wudu isn't really about hygiene, though that's a nice side effect. It's about achieving a state of spiritual purity. It's like hitting a reset button. You're consciously leaving behind the noise and the stress of your day to enter a sacred mental space, getting your heart and your mind ready for worship.
And you know, it doesn't stop at just preparation. Performing wudu correctly comes with some absolutely incredible spiritual rewards or virtues.
And the benefits here are just wow. The sources say that with every drop of water that falls, your minor sins, the small slip-ups we all make, are literally washed away. How beautiful is that? And get this, on the Day of Judgment, the parts of the body you wash for wudu are said to shine with a brilliant light, making it easy for the Prophet Muhammad to recognize his followers. It's an act that elevates you, and it's even seen as a key to paradise.
Okay, so we've covered the powerful why. Now it's time to get practical. Let's walk through the actual how, the step-by-step process for performing wudu.
So here it is, the complete sequence from start to finish. It all kicks off with a silent intention in your heart, followed by a specific series of washing and wiping, usually done 3 times each. Now, this is the full ideal way to do it, but, and this is a really important but, there's a huge difference between the parts that are recommended and the parts that are absolutely mandatory.
And this is the distinction you've got to know. On one side, you have the sunnah acts. These are the recommended things, the practices that follow the Prophet's example. If you do them, you get a bigger reward, but if you miss one, your wudu's still good to go. On the other side, you have the rukn. These are the pillars, the non-negotiables. If you miss one of these or don't do it right, the whole wudu is invalid, and you have to start over.
Which brings us to the pillars themselves. And that word, pillar, is the perfect analogy. Just think of the pillars holding up a building. If you take one away, what happens? The whole thing is unstable. It's exactly the same with the pillars of wudu.
So what are they? What are these core foundational parts that you absolutely, positively cannot miss for your wudu to count?
There are 6 of them. First, the intention in your heart. That's where it all starts. Then, you've got 4 washing and wiping actions, the entire face, both arms up to the elbows, wiping at least part of your head, and washing both feet up to the ankles. And finally, number 6 is really about how you do it. You have to do them in the right order, and you have to do them continuously, without big breaks.
Let's talk about that continuity part for a second. What does that actually mean? Well, a really simple rule of thumb is that the body part you just washed shouldn't have time to dry completely before you start washing the next one. It's all about keeping the flow and staying focused, not getting sidetracked by a phone call in the middle of it all.
Okay, this all sounds great, but it all hinges on having water, right? So what happens if you're in a situation where there's no water to be found? This is where you see the incredible practicality and compassion built into the faith.
The alternative is called tayammum. You can think of it as a dry ablution. It's a special provision that lets you achieve that same state of spiritual purity, but by using clean earth or dust instead of water. It makes sure that a lack of resources never stops someone from being able to pray.
So when is it okay to use tayammum? Well, it basically comes down to 2 main scenarios. The first one's obvious. You just can't find water. The second is when you have water, but there's a really good reason you can't use it. Maybe it's all you have to drink, or maybe you have an injury or illness that would get worse if it got wet.
And what this all shows is a really beautiful principle at the heart of Islam. Faith isn't meant to be an impossible burden. The allowance for tayammum is a perfect sign of that mercy and realism, making sure worship is always accessible, no matter your circumstances.
Now, all this talk of what's required and what isn't brings us to one of the most debated questions out there.
It's one you hear all the time. What happens if a man and woman touch? Does that simple contact automatically break your wudu? Well, that's a whole other can of worms, and something to think about for next time.